So some weeks ago, we hosted a group of nuns from Dharma Drum Mountain in Taiwan, and they shared with us the meditation practices that they do. And one of them that really struck me was this practice that's called a huatou, which literally means like the beginning of a thought or beginning of speech. And I saw a good translation of this practice recently, which was investigating a critical phrase. Yeah, so from what I understand, it's in the meditation you're given a critical phrase like of paramount importance about how you exist, and it's a phrase you bring to mind repeatedly in meditation, not going for any kind of conceptual answer, but to generate such deep curiosity about the answer to this question that it kind of consumes you at all times until you finally all your energy is focused into finding the answer, and then you get some kind of direct breakthrough and experiential realization. That's as much as I understood from the description. So some examples they gave of this critical phrase were to contemplate, like, who is reciting the name of the Buddha, right? Or what was my original face when I was in my mother's womb? Or I think this one drew many of us, who is dragging this corpse around? Yeah, and then you bring that to mind again and again. So while I don't have any experience really doing this practice, what it got me thinking about was all the all-consuming questions that have taken up time in my life and driven a lot of my behavior, but that were completely unproductive. Yeah, so okay, I'm guessing other people have had such questions too, and I'm not alone. So some examples that came to mind, like when I was very little, this all-consuming question I had was, why do I have to go to school? Which was really not very helpful and kind of ungrateful. I feel quite embarrassed looking back at how much I hated school, because there are a lot of children in this world who don't have access to education. But it was just, I don't know, it was full on, I hated school so much from a very young age for whatever karmic reason. On Sunday nights, I would go and stand outside my parents' room and bawl and just say, please, don't make me go, don't make me go. I mean, my poor parents, they're like trying to go to work the next day and they need to get to bed, right? And finally, they'd just be like, go back to bed, you have to go to school. There's no option. And so, eventually I learned to behave. And but I held this, I think, throughout high school still. It's like, why do I have to come here? Eventually I became very cynical about education. Like, yeah, it's just a legal requirement. And a lot of arrogance too. Like, I can learn this myself. Yeah, I'm just here to learn social skills and learn how to get along with people. Fine, So this kind of very cynical attitude toward really what's a great privilege and a gift. Yeah. So yeah, it's just an unproductive question, right? That takes up so much time and wasted so much energy and tears and led to nothing really, instead of having an appreciative mind. And another question that took up a lot of time kind of arose when I was 9, and the domestic helper who raised me left Singapore. And that was again because of the law. A helper at the time could only have a work permit for 8 years, and it couldn't be renewed. So she came from the Philippines, and so after that, she migrated to Canada. So, it was like at age 9, the person who raised me disappeared, right? So of course I was very upset and cried a lot, traumatized, and so on. Then I think from then on, then the question came, why don't you love me anymore? Yeah, right? That's what a child understands, right? Why don't you love me anymore? How can I make you love me again? What did I do wrong? Or but why don't you love me anymore? I can't be the only one with that kind of question, right? And it takes up, again, it's a very sad, unproductive question, but, we put ourselves through the hoop to try and figure out the answer to that. Why don't you love me anymore? How can I make you love me again? How can I make sure I never get hurt like this ever again? 10 years pass, and, you've just done all kinds of things to try and, it's all consuming. How can I make you love me? Yes, the life of a people pleaser. That's how it begins, with a question like that. How can I make you love me? And again, totally barking up the wrong tree. It's just not a productive question. And when we study the Dharma, these are not useful routes of inquiry. Yeah. I think I first started asking maybe more helpful questions when I was 18. I think, questions like, how can I benefit others? Right? Or what does it mean to love someone? What is compassion, really? What does it even look like? How can I actually enact that? And I think even starting to ask such questions was what eventually led me to go deeper into a spiritual path, and eventually led me to ordain. It's definitely part of that. So to see like, yeah, the power of asking, yeah, productive, helpful questions. Yeah. So that was one kind of route of reflection I went on, thinking about this critical phrase. The other one that I'm sitting with now is just thinking like, why don't I have this overwhelming curiosity about how I exist? That is just not my experience right now. Because that's what this critical phrase is supposed to engender, right? It's like, yeah, who is reciting the name of the Buddha? And you just want to know all the time. I wake up and I don't ask that question. It's like, who am I? I'm me. And this is what I have to do today, right? It's not really something I think about. Like, why? Why don't I wake up wondering, like, who is this? Yeah, and it was so interesting to sit with the question of who is dragging this corpse around. Yeah, that's the one I picked for the little exercise we did. And just sitting there, immediately my mind just went, I'm not a corpse. It's like, no, I'm not a corpse. What are you talking about? I'm like, okay. And after a while sitting with this question, you're just supposed to bring it to mind repeatedly. And then suddenly my mind went, oh my goodness, I hate this word dragging. I don't drag myself around. I'm joyful. I'm enthusiastic. I skip around. Yeah, who is skipping around? I'm like, oh dear, I have some serious issues here. So it was just interesting to watch the mind kind of totally reject this critical phrase at all. Yeah, not even getting into curious. It's like, it's not true. I am not dragging a corpse around. So yeah, the complete denial of, what is real. What? No, I'm skipping around happily, and I'm a happy nun. Yes. So yes, that's definitely, so it was helpful to see this big gap in my practice, that I need to even get curious about this critical phrase, or just to check up, like, what am I wasting my time spinning around, in terms of all-consuming questions. Yeah, like Venerable Goi gave the example of, like, people go out one day, you're the only one left at the monastery, and you spend the whole day wondering, like, where did everyone go, right? And it's like of paramount importance. I wish I could approach actual deep important questions like, how do I exist? Yeah, and what causes am I creating for my next life? Even basic questions like that are important in our spiritual practice. I wish I could have that same energy and focus and all-consuming wish to know. So that's something I'll keep working on happily.